All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kristina Hansen. For those of you that don't know me, I am an instructional designer here at CTE, and come, if you want to come say hi at our new office, come see us in F210. So, all right, more people are showing up. All right, so today we're going to talk about UDL. Have you ever had a student who, or class, in your class, you give the assessment and everybody, seems to be showing, promising effort and everything, but your instruction was consistent, but there's that one student who usually does well, and they've just bombed it. So you kind of wonder, like, what's happening here? And is it diminished capacity to learn? No. Is it that they just didn't care about the subject? Possibly. But why? Well, maybe it's because it's not how they learn. It was presented in a way that is inconsistent with their learning style, which is a major proponent in student success. And we can learn how to incorporate different styles and make the learning experience more accessible and dynamic for everybody through UDL, Universal Design for Learning. And what UDL is a framework to promote equitable access and through accessible materials, through a varied variety of assessment techniques, and at the core of it is learner agency. So, what I mean in terms of learner agency is giving them choice through that variety of learning assessments. So, all right. So our objectives today. We're going to talk about the 3 core principles of Universal Design for Learning: engagement, representation, and action and expression. So what these principles promote is inclusivity and accessibility in any learning environment, whether it's in-person, online, or hybrid. Specifically in higher ed, they address the different learning styles. So it's kind of like sets the stage for the UDL. Then we're going to identify some practical strategies for how to incorporate it. So what do we mean by practical UDL strategies? This could be specific tools, technologies, instructional approaches, and we're going to go further into that. Instructional materials and activities that cater to diverse learning styles. So you want to vary your assessments. You want to be able to kind of reach everybody. Have something there for everyone. Designed to be flexible, adaptable, and still in line with the objectives. And learn how we can evaluate the effectiveness, how we can use what reflective strategies and assessment, both self and peer and learner assessment, we can use to evaluate how successful these implementations are. So why should we? What's the rationale really for recognizing learner variability? Well, students bring diverse backgrounds, learning styles, and they come from a wide range of these backgrounds. So we're going to take a look at. Let's look at Jonathan. Okay.
You need to exit maybe the.
Yeah, I have the.
And just,
Sorry. There, I'll just get back to it. That's so. There. I'll just, sorry about that. We're gonna look at. So we're looking at example one. All right. And then we'll do UDL. All right. All right. So, what these videos tell us is that by considering the learner variability up front, the UDL shows that learning experience need to be accessible, need to be engaging and effective for everybody. And, going back to, Jonathan, who was able to finally write a successful essay, just because the teacher decided to tweak the approach, and, there are instances that we're going to go into later on where, even creating, instead of just saying, hey, give me this double-spaced 5 to 7 page paper, with making a persuasive argument, but maybe incorporate the notion of, for the more visual learners, they can do a poster or an infographic, or, create like an experiment for the more kinesthetic learners. So the framework for UDL is broken down into three main components: engagement, representation, and action and expression. And this might look familiar for those of you who have seen our pedagogy one. You're going to get a copy of, you're going to get a link to this presentation, and you will have access to this as well. So, and it is interactive, so when you click it, it does go further into, and it's a paragraph's worth of stuff, so we're not going to read about it here, but this graphic, when you hover over it, it flips the cards, and it can also be found on our pedagogy course. So let's go into the principles. Engagement. The core objective is to make your students interested in what you're up here talking about. So intrinsic motivation, catering to their individual needs. For example, with a paper, a teacher could provide a list of potential topics for a research paper, and be flexible in how they present it. Give like 3-4 ways that they can present it, instead of just having that one size fits all. So offering choices, as we spoke, connected to real-world applications. So theoretical concepts sometimes can be hard to translate into a practical application. So students need to be able to see it in order to help them retain the information and basically get to that level where they can explain it in layman's terms. They can understand from every angle. You have to make sure that you have practical implications, as an example. And that can be, like with Jonathan and the sports reference. You can use anything, and this is why getting to know your students is also important. And another thing, these UDL principles, it's not really doing extra work. It's just the same amount of work, but you're providing more options. So another real world practical applications. One day, instead of, let's say, talking about, let's say you're teaching nursing students, instead of, covering more theoretical concepts in nursing, you could have a guest speaker who is a nurse from the local hospital to come in and speak. Active learning strategies. So this is all anything that kind of gets them up and moving in the class or online, having those breakout rooms, making them more engaged where they can kind of bounce ideas off of each other, whether it's, a peer review, like work with a partner and do a peer review, or working on a group project, or anything that's kind of interactive, and simulations, case studies. Case studies have been shown to be very successful as a way to apply that knowledge. And also providing opportunities for collaboration whenever possible. Unless it's your introverted students, they might have a harder time, but they'll help. It will help them being around their peers. So representation. You want to, when it comes to variety and instructional approaches, you want to be able to present it in a variety of ways. So just having the very bare bones PowerPoint slide deck for every single lesson is not really going to cut it. You can have your slide deck, but you want to be able to incorporate, multimedia. You want to incorporate, maybe have like a quiz question or a prompt question at the beginning of the lesson. These are some ways, because okay, the more vocal opinionated students might benefit from the debates in class. The more reflective student might benefit from like the journal assignments. The more social learners might benefit from more collaborative work. Flip the classroom. So presenting it in different ways is also making, kind of delving into that accessible realm of providing transcripts for videos. So for the more, the learners that they're like, I learn better by reading, I have to read the information. I can't just listen to people talk. I have to read the words. That's perfect for them. I always require subtitles. Doesn't matter what it is. Subtitles help me hear better. So it's just how, I could still hear it, but to kind of process like what they're saying, I have to read it. Offering audio versions of readings. How many of you have heard of Notebook LM? Notebook LM is a great tool for this, where you just basically info dump a bunch of sources to it, and it can churn out about anywhere from 7 to 30 minute like an audio podcast episode on the subject. So it is a great tool for basically taking all of that and just digesting it into a format that it kind of reaches a variety of learning styles. Captions, subtitles, yes. And presenting information visually. Visual learners will greatly benefit from this, and also you want to have a visual component because it enhances the lesson. So case studies.
There is some, like when you create something in video or you create some video to your
Mm-hmm.
lecture, you can there is an option to put the caption with that.
Yeah.
So there is no need to create a transcript for that.
Well, so you can have the live captions and the transcripts are the thing with the transcripts. Yeah, you can have either or, as long as it's more than one. But the thing with the transcript though is they don't have to have the video playing in order to read like what's going on in the So it's it's good. Let's say if they're somewhere where they don't have their headphones and they don't want to be that person on public transportation and play the video out loud, they can read that. So yeah, it's all about having more than one method of presenting. Any questions so far? All right, so now we have action and expression. Main goal here is how can we provide these options to students and incorporating diverse ways to demonstrate what they know. So physical demonstrations, experiments, performances. I remember doing like a mini play in history class. It's anything to kind of drill that into their head, like whatever information that you're trying to teach them. So here's what earlier I brushed up on having that choice, having that learner agency. So variety of assessment formats, and this can be one assignment. So it can be the topic, and you can tell them you can use any of these formats to present the information. And as long as you have you could still have a rubric, where you can evaluate it with the same rubric, because the rubric evaluates how the information is presented, how how strong their argument is, or how how it's presented, is all the information that needs to be there over there. Vary the delivery of tools and technologies. especially with online and cloud-based stuff, there's so many tools out there for educators where, hey, today we're going to be playing around with this new thing. Today we're going to use this, and just kind of like having that, keeping things like fresh and kind of keeping them on their toes. Opportunities for self-reflection. And this kind of ties into that testing, kind of assessing your methods of assessment itself. So testing that, how successful have these implementations been, but also for the student to be able to reflect on their progress. So here's like a brief overview of how the different course modalities, how you can have, what can you do on the practical applications to incorporate some UDL principles. So what does UDL look like? Let's say you go to an online course and you're like, well, have they incorporated UDL principles? So this is what to look for kind of when you're trying to, whether you're evaluating a course based on universal design or you're trying to make yours more UDL friendly. So, what does it look like in an online course? Intuitive, organized course structure, navigation. Do the links say where, are the links labeled in a way that, it tells you exactly what you're going to click on? Accessible course materials. So what this is, your documents have headings as defined by the text style headings, not just making the font bigger. So designated as headings. So basically what those things are, they're telling the screen readers and the assistive technologies how to read that, how to present that information. So PDF Canva has a free PDF editor. You don't have to have Canva Pro to use it. So it's basically drag and drop. And every time I've edited PDF documents in Canva, I've always gotten like near perfect accessibility score. So it's actually a great tool for if you have any PDFs and you're like, well, I can't use this because it's one big image. It can extract the text from that image as well. So opportunities for feedback. How many of you know about the video feedback feature in Ultra? So instead of providing feedback on assignments, you can provide feedback via video. So you can record yourself providing student feedback, and there's only a handful of instructors that I've seen use it, but they swear by it. So in a hybrid modality, since it has both online and in-person components, this basically is more of like a Venn diagram of things. So having clear expectations, integration of online and in-person components. So clear expectations, it can be anywhere from these are the days that we meet asynchronously or synchronously in class. These are the days that are asynchronous. If there is a synchronous meeting, making sure that it's easy for them to click and get on, that there's no technical issues. Creating those interaction opportunities. So any kind of breakout rooms, work on an activity and then, or read this and then put your heads together and, answer questions, whatever your assignment is. And flexible participation options. So you can even make it so the students can, do you want to work by yourself or do you want to work in a group? It's I'm better working by myself. I get distracted working in a group. So I've always dreaded group projects, but some people love them. Some people love, having that kind of dynamic between their amongst their peers, like being able to bounce off ideas and but it's all about, but just because, we all have different ways of learning doesn't mean that one of us doesn't deserve to succeed, so, and that's basically what UDL is at its core. All right, so what are some benefits? Well, increase student engagement and motivation. By providing these multiple means of engagement, representation, action and expression, the three major ones that we covered, you're offering choices, you're incorporating relevant and also relevant tasks that align with the objectives, provide opportunities for collaboration, all of those things. So when you're varying the level of when you're varying, the engagement levels, when you're varying even like the difficulty levels of your assignments, it can have a big effect. Everybody wins. Improved learning outcomes for all students. So UDL, it improves learning outcomes for everybody through creating that kind of flexible and inclusive learning environment. So, and it's where by, the students feel less anxious, less challenged. So, how many times students have said, oh, I really hate this class because, her tests are so difficult, like they're just all multiple choice, and, I just don't do well. It's all just like the driest form of, I can't like say, I can't like express my answer, I can't, so that level of, it's not that the material is hard to is difficult to learn. It's just that the mode of delivery sometimes makes students anxious, and so if you have that variety, they'll be like, well, I feel seen because there's, they sometimes use this, and that's my favorite mode. But even if you don't always use it, they still feel valued. Like they still feel like, okay, well, I could actually think the way I actually think in here. So when I said UDL doesn't actually create more work for you, because with UDL, it's a proactive approach that minimizes that necessity to like retrofit. And so, for example, if your documents aren't accessible, well, here's the retrofitting part. We have to go back and make them accessible. But when you're incorporating these before you even build your course, when you're approaching course design with UDL, those kind of have already been taken care of. So UDL, in that way, it fosters that more inclusive and equitable learning experience. And being equitable doesn't always mean treating everybody equally. It's meeting them where they're at. So, and in this way, like I said, everybody feels a little less anxious, everybody dreads it a little less. It fosters that inclusive classroom that kind of that value that diversity in thinking, and they feel supported. So you can provide that flexible instruction, you can provide that the multiple means of representation, and you can provide that sense of belonging for the student. So yeah. So let's see. What are some ways? How How many of you have taught online? You've taught online, yeah. Okay, so going back to this, like, what are some other ways that we can add? Is there something that, when it comes to UDL, is there something that you think is important that you don't see here? Discussions? Yes, like opportunities for collaboration. But yeah, so are discussions a big component in your?
I mean, discussion is critical in my mind when I create design, like weekly basis they have to complete every week discussion.
Mm-hmm.
This will help them to, and it helped me also to figure out like where they struggling, which point they actually went. So when I also, but the discussion has to be instructed with the structure. It has to be well structured in order for them to understand what to do.
Mm-hmm. And what do you teach?
I mean, right now I'm not teaching online my course, but I used to teach in other places when I'm teaching, usually online when before.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way how I did it. So I do discussion board and all of this. Well, this is what I'm thinking about our A&P courses later on. Yeah. But right now I'm in the step to do hybrid first, and then we will do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, and online I teach mostly anatomy, physiology, biology courses, like science courses.
And case studies are huge with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are good, but in online, if you want to build community, you have to create those either discussion board, or you get some kind of about share pair.
Mm-hmm. Think, fair, share.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you can actually indicate which student with who supposed to work first, and then they can contribute to overall to the entire need group in there or the entire classroom. They provide the input on the specific activity they have, and then they can put all of that together. Yeah. So there is something like that. So I kind of like to try it, different things. So but right now I'm not teaching online at Triton because my course is mostly face to face. That's why I'm working on to build up something. So I'm gonna start with hybrid first, and then the way how later on online. So hopefully. Also, I mean, you have to give them something like coffee place so they can do something like not related to the topic if they don't want, because you don't want them even when you do discussion to talk discuss something totally outside that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes students, because you ask them, you have to reply to at least 2 students, and they don't know what to reply. So sometimes they, oh, I like your post, and this is what, and then, oh, I did have this, and I remember from your introduction. So you want to limit this to more professional way, so, because when you put discussion question, they have to limit, they only instructed to answer those questions and reply only to those topics.
Yeah.
So sometimes if they want to do something like, oh, enjoy something, they can post something like in the coffee place or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. This way it does kind of like separate the more professional than the actual material, the learning objective. Then, and at the same time, you can allow them to build some community as online.
Yeah. And yeah, like with creating that sense of community, students tend to be self-conscious, and when they feel that they're under the microscope of their peers, a lot of people, it's a misconception that, oh, if you put a bunch of students to kind of basically bounce ideas off of each other, they're just going to get distracted and start talking. And that's not necessarily true, because they also will feel judged if they're the slacker in the group. So it's kind of creating that, keeping them on their toes kind of thing. But no matter how well structured one's classes, there's always ways to look to improve it. So
Yeah.
when I was in grad school, one of the faculty, it was a very popular class. It's called like Sociology of Cinema, and I was a TA in that class, and they're like, well, this semester, can you teach it? It's all online, but until we get a permanent faculty. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm teaching it. So, and so one thing, they're like, okay, you can kind of, some of the movies are kind of dated, and the way the class was originally is there was, you had a choice of one movie and questions. So I'm like, well, what if they don't own this movie? Because this was 2012, so this was before basically you had like millions and millions of streaming services to where, or you could just look it up on YouTube or just, I'm like, so it's kind of been inconvenienced to just limit each unit to one movie. So what I did was I kept the original questions, the original assignment, but I gave them a list of movies to choose from. And yeah, so and that actually it made the class a lot more fun. It made the class it made my job a lot more fun actually, because I'm like, hey, I don't have to read like 36 different papers on the same movie that somebody saw. So, I can read about every paper will be about a different movie. Yeah. So, but it's just because the source for their assignment is different, the objectives are still the same. So, if you think that, and I would do a list where the ones that had a common theme and because I don't want to put something in there and they're watching it, they're like, well, there's nothing, within this unit that kind of reflects those concepts. So it's, and, doing that, it was a bit of a gamble, but doing that, it was actually, the outcome was very favorable. So
I think it's a good idea when you give option for a student to choose from, that only just through one thing, so you have to figure it out, because sometimes, and that's what I believe the universal design is all about.
Yeah.
In my discussion, when I do discussion, I give 10 questions with the whole, after I put all the instruction, and I tell them select only 2 questions to answer from there. And then post your answer so the other can see it and reply to it. And then you have to post also reply to other people. So.
Yep.
And all of that, I organize it with. I told them how many points they got for the reply, how many points for original posting, and all of that. So those they become more clear for a student, because in the online, if you don't do every step like that, they won't figure out like how they're going to be graded or how they will be able to manage to, like, if they're doing it correctly or not.
Yeah, because that's where feedback is important. That's where feedback is critical in their progress, because you only have these students in your class for a few weeks. Well, now it's 8 weeks mostly. So in those 8 weeks, you want to be able to kind of strap them in and just get make sure that they learn this in the best of their ability. But they won't know, with every discussion, with every assessment, if they're just like, well, yeah, it's graded, but I don't know what I did right, I don't know what I did wrong, and not having that that constructive, that criticism is going to hurt them in the long run. So you always want to address feedback. Anything else? Anything where you've taken a gamble on a way to present something, or something to I know one time we had to improvise, remember Echo 360? How Echo 360?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And it was so finicky. I don't know why, but it was so finicky. Like sometimes like the sound wouldn't work or you couldn't share something. And so there was one time where it was just we got so frustrated, and the nursing faculty who were using it a lot were yelling at us, and this is years ago. And I'm like, well, what's something that's, I mean, we could try VoiceThread, you know? Yeah, we don't have a licensing. Purdue doesn't have, because I was with Purdue at this time, and I'm like, they don't have licensing, you know, but we can still, you know, there's a free version. We can do a lot in the free version. And so we kind of pivoted that, and it kind of became like one of the contingency options, default like contingencies for, okay, if we don't want to deal with echo, we can just do VoiceThread. But it's actually good because what I like about VoiceThread is, you know, you can just kind of pinpoint whatever you're presenting, whatever you're sharing. You know, you can comment like right along as the lesson goes. So,
that's nice.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So, any questions so far? I did this. So a few sources that we have. That's us. But these are some great resources. CAS, the Center for Applied Special Technology, is one of the best resources when it comes to UDL. They've got they have graphics. They have this. Hold on. I'm gonna actually go on this one, on the UDL guidelines, and it is a. So this is a great tool. It kind of breaks down the universal design, and it shows how you can making this accessible, providing that support and this executive function. So when it comes to engagements, you know, welcoming interests and identities, where representation, supporting those opportunities to customize the displays of information. So kind of having that customized delivery and interaction, optimizing access for materials, varying the methods. So this one is, and this is linked on in the slide that I just showed you. So, and you will get this emailed. So that way.
Oh, you will send the email.
Yeah, I will send
this
the slide.
This is a presentation, and here's the PowerPoint, or the
one that
Word PowerPoint
Canva.
you're using, Canva?
Yeah. Because it's easy to share for the public view link. It's easy just to like share the public view link, and so, and but yeah, like and it integrates pretty well with interactive like the UDL, the interactive graphic. You could just like click twice, and then you can interact with the elements of it. So this one, it does have quite the comprehensive way. It's almost like a UDL cheat sheet. Like I wouldn't mind printing this out, and you know, if I'm building a course or something, it's good to have this as a reference. Yeah.
And this is for both hybrid and online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and the bullet points, you know, some of them are more applicable to hybrid, some are more online, but it's you know, it's all in there. Yeah. So, any questions? Any questions so far? I'll leave this here. All right, so, done a little bit earlier today, but,
But you covered,
but yeah.
you covered a lot of.
Yeah.
No one will complain.
Yeah.
Nobody can complain, no, absolutely.
Because I know the last few sessions, like, we've gone over,
Because
you
a lot
know.
of people talking,
Ye-
asking questions.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can kind of compact the slide deck a bit, but, you know, and
yeah,
so that way leave some room for questions.
Yeah,
I
so-
try to leave the last 10 minutes for question and discussion, so, but, yeah. All right,
Yeah, thank you so much.
you're very welcome, and we'll make sure we will have this
We'll
sent
follow
out to you.
this,
Yep.
the link.
And you can access, this is it's the second link on the last slide.
Yep.
So,
Thank you, good to meet you. I will talk to you soon.
Yeah.
When I start working on stuff, if I have anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm glad to, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Thank you.
Good, I'll
Appreciate it.
figure it out.
Yep.
Having severe abdominal pains. I don't know why.
are you still recording?
Have a good